The conference room erupted in snickers, 10 faces around that glossy mahogany table, and every single one of them wore the same expression: amusement, superiority, and a sense of relief that it was not them. "A bot replaced you," someone from marketing whispered. The giggling started small, then spread like wildfire. I sat perfectly still. My leather portfolio remained closed in front of me. The severance packet felt heavy in my hands. 5 years of my life were reduced to a stack of papers and a cold digital handshake. They thought they were so clever. What they did not know would destroy their operations in exactly 9 hours and 37 minutes. For now, they celebrated their cost-cutting brilliance. The chief operating officer, a man named Donald Pierce, with teeth that were too white, leaned back in his chair. "We appreciate your contributions, Richard, but the automation you helped develop has simply made your position redundant," Donald said, his voice dripping with condescension. "It is nothing personal, just business evolution." Evolution, that was what he called it. The director of operations, Valerie Reynolds, could not quite meet my eyes as she slid the final documents across the table. At least she had the decency to look uncomfortable. "The transition has been seamless," Valerie muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. "The system you built is handling everything perfectly. We are actually seeing a 27% efficiency increase." Of course, they were. I had designed it that way. I had spent 5 years optimizing every routine, securing every pipeline, and ensuring that the system could handle anything. But they had forgotten to read the fine print. And in corporate offices, when the people making the cuts forget to check the details, the results speak for themselves. Welcome to the reality of business decisions and their unexpected consequences. I am Richard Vance, a 48-year-old senior systems architect. Until today, I worked at Zenith Solutions, a mid-tier technology firm specializing in automation software for corporate environments. My father had lost his manufacturing job to outsourcing, and watching him struggle had instilled in me a deep understanding of what it felt like to be considered expendable by some corporate spreadsheet. That empathy shaped everything I built, every system I designed, and every line of code I wrote. It also made me careful, extremely careful. I signed the documents. Every page, every initial, every acknowledgement that my employment was terminated effective immediately. Donald Pierce smiled wider with each signature, clearly thinking about the bonus he would receive for cutting my salary. Valerie Reynolds looked more uncomfortable by the second. "Security will escort you to collect your personal items," Donald announced, standing to signal the end of the meeting. "Your access cards and company devices need to be surrendered before you leave the building." "Of course," I replied, keeping my voice steady. I gathered my things with the same precision I had brought to every project over the past 5 years. The walk to my office felt longer than usual. Walter from security, a kind man who had always held the door and asked about my weekend, looked genuinely sorry as we rode the elevator. "I hate this part of the job," Walter muttered. "You are just doing your work, Walter," I assured him. "None of this is your fault. My office was already half empty. 3 boxes. That was all I had to show for 5 years of dedication. A coffee mug my wife Diana had given me on my first day, a small succulent, a framed photo of Diana and me at the coast, some notebooks filled with ideas that Zenith Solutions would never see now. Personal items, nothing proprietary, nothing they could claim belonged to them. Except they had already taken everything that mattered, or so they thought. My phone buzzed. A text from Diana. "How did the meeting go? Are we still on for dinner at 7? I had not told her about the rumors. I had known what was coming, had seen the signs, and had prepared accordingly. "Meeting went exactly as expected," I typed back. "Dinner at 7 sounds perfect. I will have a lot to tell you." Walter helped me carry my boxes to the parking garage. The afternoon sunlight felt strange on my face as I loaded my car. It was 3:15 on a Tuesday, and I was leaving work for the last time. No farewell party, no cake in the break room, no speeches, just boxes, silence, and the distant sound of traffic. I sat in my car for a moment before starting the engine. Through the windshield, Zenith Solutions rose 12 stories of glass and steel, a monument to corporate ambition. Somewhere up there, Donald Pierce was probably already congratulating himself. Valerie Reynolds was likely telling herself it was just business. The automated system I had built was humming along, processing requests, managing workflows, and doing the job of 3 people for the cost of a software license. That license, the one registered under Vance Tech Consulting LLC, the one with very specific terms and conditions buried in Section 12, Subsection 4, the one that renewed annually unless terminated with 120 days written notice. I checked my watch. 9 hours and 27 minutes remained. I drove home, taking the scenic route. My phone rang twice, both calls from Zenith numbers. I did not answer. Whatever they needed, they would have to figure it out themselves now. The house was quiet when I arrived. Diana would not be home for another 2 hours. I carried my boxes inside, setting them in the spare room that served as my home office. This room had seen late nights and early mornings. It had witnessed the creation of something Zenith Solutions clearly could not live without. I opened my personal laptop, the one that had nothing to do with Zenith, and navigated to a control panel that existed in a secure corner of the internet. The dashboard showed green indicators across the board. System operational, all modules functioning, client satisfaction at 97%. One toggle switch sat at the bottom of the screen. Gray for now, inactive. The label read license status active until 11:59 and 59 seconds. Below it, a countdown timer read 9 hours, 14 minutes, and 33 seconds. I did not touch the switch. There was no reason to do so. Everything was already set in motion, programmed months ago when I first sensed the shifting winds at Zenith Solutions. It was when Donald Pierce had started asking questions about system independence. In corporate speak, that meant, how can we get rid of the person who built this system? I had answered every question, documented everything, and even trained Valerie's team on basic troubleshooting. I had been helpful and cooperative. What I had not mentioned was the licensing structure. The automation engine they were so proud of was not actually owned by Zenith. They had licensed it, sure, but ownership remained with Vance Tech Consulting LLC, a legal entity I had established before my first day of employment. My employment contract was clear. Any inventions created using company time and resources belonged to Zenith, but the automation engine had not been created on company time. I had built the core framework during a 6-month sabbatical between jobs. I had registered it properly and established the licensing terms before Zenith ever approached me. They had been so eager to hire me, so impressed by what the engine could do, that they had accepted the licensing arrangement without much scrutiny. After all, the monthly fee was reasonable, far less than a full salary would cost them, and I had made it so easy, handling all the renewals automatically. That was until I sent the termination notice, 121 days ago to be precise. I sent it via certified mail, return receipt requested, addressed to Donald Pierce and the Zenith Legal Department. It was a formal notice that the licensing agreement for the Vance Tech automation engine would not be renewed for the subsequent annual period. They had filed it away without reading it. I had confirmed that through a friendly contact in the mailroom. The envelope had gone straight to a filing cabinet, unopened and unread. The automated renewal they expected would never come. The invoice they had grown accustomed to paying would never arrive, and in the chaos of quarterly reports, budget meetings, and restructuring plans, nobody had noticed, nobody except me, who had watched the countdown from 120 days down to the few hours that remained. Diana came home at 6:30, carrying takeout, containers, and wearing a concerned expression. She worked in contract law and was always good at reading my mood. She found me in the living room, a glass of wine in hand, looking more relaxed than I had been in months. "Okay, so I am guessing the meeting did not go well," she ventured. "Actually, it went perfectly," I replied. "I got fired today." Diana froze. "You what? Terminated, let go, made redundant." "The bot replaced me," I said. Donald seemed quite pleased with himself about it. "Richard, I am so sorry. I know how much work you put into that place." Diana sat down, reaching for my hand. "Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it?" "I am wonderful, actually." I squeezed her hand. "Remember how I explained the licensing structure when I first took the job?" Recognition dawned slowly across Diana's face. The legal implications hit her immediately. "Oh no, please tell me they did not." "They did," I smiled. "They automated my position using the engine I licensed to them. Then they terminated my employment without ever realizing that the automation they are relying on stops working at midnight. Diana's eyes went wide. You sent the 120 days notice. 121 days ago, actually. Certified mail. They never opened it. Deanna started laughing. It was the kind of laugh that came from disbelief and admiration. They fired you using your own system, and they do not know the system disappears in less than 6 hours. What happens when it shuts down? Everything stops, I explained. The engine handles their entire workflow automation, customer service requests, data processing, inventory management, payroll routing, and compliance reporting. When I built it, I integrated it deep into their operations to meet their requirements. Make it feel like part of the infrastructure. Diana set down her wine glass. How long until they can replace it? If they go with an off-the-shelf solution, they are looking at 3 to 6 months of implementation. If they try to build something in-house, add another year. If they try to reverse engineer what I built, it is encrypted and proprietary. Can they sue? For what? I sent proper notice. I fulfilled every obligation. My employment contract was separate from the licensing arrangement. They are the ones who assumed the two were connected. But they will argue you acted in bad faith, she warned. I acted with perfect faith. I sent notice in advance exactly as the contract required. I cannot help it if they did not read their mail. I cannot help it if they made their operations dependent on a licensed product. I cannot help it if they fired the one person who understood how everything worked. We ate dinner and discussed the logistics. I walked Diana through the technical details, explaining how the shutdown would cascade through Zenith's systems. First, the automated customer service responses would stop. Then, the data processing queues would freeze. Inventory management would go offline. Payroll routing for the upcoming cycle would fail. Compliance reports due to federal regulators would never generate. The best part, I explained to her, is that it will not be dramatic. There will be no error messages, no system crashes, and no alerts. The engine will just stop responding. It will feel like a light switch was flipped off. Their IT department will spend hours trying to figure out what is wrong before someone thinks to check the licensing status. My phone buzzed. Diana glanced at it, then showed me the screen. It was a news alert about Zenith Solutions announcing their most efficient quarter in company history, crediting innovative automation and streamlined operations. That press release went out this afternoon, I noted. Donald Pierce loves his media coverage. That is going to age poorly, like milk left out in the sun. We finished dinner, cleaned up the kitchen, and settled in to wait. I opened my laptop again, bringing up the control panel. The countdown read 4 hours, 47 minutes, and 12 seconds. Everything still showed green. The system was functioning exactly as designed, processing Zenith's requests, maintaining their operations, and doing the work of the role they had deemed redundant. The irony still had not gotten old. Diana made coffee, the good stuff we saved for special occasions. This feels surreal, she admitted, like we are waiting for New Year's Eve, but instead of fireworks, we get corporate chaos. Pretty much, I smiled, my phone rang. It was a Zenith number. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a notification popped up. They had sent an email marked urgent. I opened it and read it aloud for Diana. It was from Donald Pierce. The subject read, "Immediate response required. Richard, we need you to provide administrative access to the automation system. Our IT department is conducting a routine audit and requires elevated permissions. Please respond with credentials at your earliest convenience." Diana laughed. A routine audit at 7 in the evening on the day they fired you? Someone is getting nervous. I typed a brief response. Donald, as of 3 in the afternoon today, I am no longer employed by Zenith Solutions. Administrative access to licensed systems falls under Vance Tech Consulting LLC, not my former employee account. Please direct all technical inquiries to the appropriate vendor channels. Best regards, Richard. The response came within minutes, Richard. Let us not be difficult about this. We need those credentials. Call my cell phone when you get this. I did not call. Instead, I poured another glass of wine and watched the countdown tick below 4 hours. At 8:45, Valerie Reynolds tried calling, then texting. Richard, please. We just need some clarification on a few technical items. Can we talk? Now they want to talk, I muttered. 3 hours until their world ends, and now they want clarification. Deanna was reading something on her tablet. I am looking at Zenith's client list. They have got some major contracts, state government agencies, healthcare systems, financial services firms. If those integrations go down, they go down hard. I confirmed that. The engine processes real-time data feeds for all of them. When it stops, their clients stop getting updates, reports, and transactions. Every client they have will be demanding answers. There are 53 enterprise contracts, representing $12 million in annual revenue. Actually, it is closer to $15 million now, because they landed new contracts last quarter using my engine as the selling point. Another call came, then another voicemail, and then increasingly frantic emails. The tone was shifting from demanding to concerned to something approaching desperation. Still no apology, though. No acknowledgement that they had made a catastrophic error. Just demands disguised as requests. At 9:30, my phone started ringing continuously. Different numbers from Zenith Solutions appeared on the screen. The main line, the IT department, Donald's cell, Valerie's cell, and even some numbers I did not recognize. I silenced it, watching the notifications pile up like snow in a winter storm. At 10 o'clock, Eric Weaver from IT, who had always been decent to me, sent a text that was different from the others. Richard, I do not know what is happening upstairs, but the executives are freaking out about the automation engine. They are saying it is going to shut down at midnight. Is that true? If it is, we need help. Please. I showed the message to Diana. See, that is how you ask. No demands, no pressure, just honesty. Are you going to respond? Diana asked. Yes, I typed carefully. Eric, the licensing agreement for the automation engine expires at midnight tonight. Zenith Solutions received 121 days written notice as required by contract. I suggest escalating to legal and senior management. This is above both our pay grades now. Well, above your pay grade? I do not have one anymore. Eric's response came immediately. They fired you today and the system shuts down tonight? What were they thinking? You would have to ask them, I replied. I am sorry, Richard. This is insane. For what it is worth, nobody in IT wanted this. We all know you built everything that actually works around here. That message landed differently. I felt the first hint that my triumph would have collateral damage beyond the people who deserved it. Eric did not deserve to spend his night fighting fires that Donald Pierce had started. But that was not my responsibility anymore. I had sent notice. I had followed protocol. They were the ones who had ignored it. They were the ones who had celebrated replacing me with my own software. They were the ones who had giggled. The countdown hit 2 hours. My email inbox was approaching 50 unread messages. At 10:45, a new email arrived from the Chief Executive Officer himself, Lawrence Barrett. Mr. Vance, I am just now being briefed on the situation regarding the automation engine licensing. I understand there may have been some miscommunication regarding renewal terms. I would like to discuss this matter with you directly. Please call my personal number. We value your contributions and want to resolve this professionally. Professionally, I read aloud to Diana. After giggling about a bot replacing me, professional is back. What are you going to do? Diana asked. Watch the countdown, I replied, and wait to see if anyone uses the word apologize. At 11 at night, the tone changed. The email started including words like litigation, damages, and bad faith. The lawyers had apparently joined the party. Threats were mixed with negotiation attempts. I forwarded everything to my attorney, Evelyn Ward. Evelyn's response was succinct. They do not have a case. Keep all communications. Do not engage. I will be available if needed. 30 minutes to midnight. Diana and I stared at the laptop screen where the countdown ticked towards 0. The automation engine still showed green. Last chance to stop this, Diana said. You could extend the license. I could. I agreed, but I will not. They need to feel this. They need to understand that people matter. At 11:55, I opened a bottle of sparkling wine. We clinked glasses and watched the final minutes evaporate. At 11:59, the countdown hit 60 seconds. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The dashboard indicators turned from green to gray. The automation engine that had been processing thousands of transactions per minute simply stopped. There was no fanfare, no warnings, no graceful degradation. Just silence. The world did not end, but the quiet did not last. At midnight, the phone lit up. Calls, texts, and emails arrived simultaneously. The voicemail icon showed 40 messages within minutes. The email count climbed past 100. My personal email received an official communication from Zenith's legal department. The subject read, "Emergency licensing renewal." The message boiled down to, "Please turn it back on and we will discuss terms." No apology, just demands. At 12:15 in the morning, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered it on speaker. "Richard Vance?" a voice asked, sounding stressed. "This is Jason Miller, with Zenith's IT Emergency Response Team. We have a critical system failure affecting all operations. We understand you may have information about the automation engine. We need immediate assistance." "Mr. Miller," I replied calmly, "the automation engine is not experiencing an outage. It is operating exactly as designed." The licensing agreement expired at midnight as communicated to Zenith management 121 days ago via certified mail. "The system has shut down according to the terms of that agreement." Silence followed. Then he spoke. "You are telling me this was planned? I am telling you the contract expired. What happens after a contract expires is predictable. Can you reactivate it? We will pay whatever renewal fee is required. We just need the system back online." "The renewal fee is not a simple matter, Mr. Miller. The licensing structure has changed. You will need to work with my attorney. We have 53 enterprise clients whose operations just went dark," he pleaded. "We have payroll processing that will not complete. We have compliance reports due to federal agencies that do not exist. We need solutions. I suggest you work quickly. My attorney is Evelyn Ward." I ended the call. At midnight, Evelyn Ward called. "Richard, I have had 6 calls in the last 15 minutes from Zenith. They are desperate. What do you want?" "I want a formal written apology from Donald Pierce and the executive team, distributed to the same people who were in that conference room when they fired me. And I want the apology first, before we discuss the licensing. As for business terms, new daily licensing fee of $8,000 per day, minimum of 90 days, consulting services at $550 per hour, and a 7-day reverse termination provision." Evelyn whistled. "That is aggressive. It is fair. They built their entire operation on my work. Now they get to pay what that mistake costs." I ended the call and checked the news. By 6 in the morning, the headlines had started. "Major automation firm experiences widespread system failure. Zenith Solutions clients report service disruptions. Tech company's efficiency push backfires." Someone inside Zenith had talked to reporters, and the truth was spreading. Automation company fires engineer, loses access to his software. The bot that replaced him, he built it and he owns it. By 7 in the morning, my story was trending. I had become an accidental symbol. Evelyn called at 7:30 in the morning. "Have you seen the news? Zenith is in full crisis mode. Lawrence Barrett has called. He wants to meet face-to-face this morning. Tell him I will meet at 10 in the morning. At the Riverside Cafe on Commerce Street," I said. "He comes with Valerie Reynolds. And Evelyn, make sure he understands that the apology happens first." At 9:30, I dressed carefully. I wanted to look like someone who knew his value and would not accept less than he deserved. Evelyn Ward met me outside the Riverside Cafe at 9:55. Lawrence Barrett was already inside, and he had brought Valerie Reynolds. I sat down across from them, and Evelyn took the final chair. For a moment, nobody spoke. The cafe hummed with morning activity around us, customers ordering lattes and checking their phones, completely unaware of the small corporate drama unfolding at our table. Finally, Lawrence cleared his throat. "Mr. Vance, thank you for meeting with us. Yesterday was a mistake. Terminating your employment was an error in judgment, and I take full responsibility. We underestimated your value, and we overestimated our understanding of the systems you built. That was wrong. The attitude displayed in that meeting was unacceptable. You deserved better. The company failed you, and I apologize." He slid a document across the table. It was a written apology that acknowledged the error, took full responsibility, and committed to reviewing corporate processes to ensure this did not happen to anyone else. It was signed by Lawrence and addressed to the entire company. I read it carefully and nodded. "This is acceptable," I said. "But I want to hear it from Valerie too." Valerie looked up, meeting my eyes. "I am sorry, Richard," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I was in that meeting and facilitated the termination. I sat there while Donald made jokes about a bot replacing you, and I did not say anything. I should have stood up for you. I am sorry. Thank you, Valerie, I replied. That was the acknowledgement I needed, not just from the chief executive officer handling a public relations crisis, but from the person who had watched it happen and remained silent. Evelyn Ward spoke next. Now we can discuss the business terms. Lawrence pushed back on the daily licensing structure, arguing for a monthly agreement, but I held firm. He questioned the daily rate, but I pointed to the business news on my phone. Zenith Solutions was currently losing approximately $200,000 per day in direct client contracts, not to mention millions in long-term reputation damage. In that context, my daily fee of $8,000 was entirely reasonable. We settled on a daily licensing rate of $8,000 with a guaranteed 90-day minimum. That meant $56,000 per week. Consulting services were established at $550 per hour, and I retained the right to end the licensing agreement with just 7 days' notice if Zenith ever attempted to phase out my involvement again. We signed the agreement at noon. Lawrence transferred the first week's licensing fees of $56,000 before leaving the cafe. As he stood up, Lawrence paused. For what it is worth, Mr. Vance, I learned that systems are only as valuable as the people who build and maintain them. We forgot that. It will not happen again. See that it does not, I replied, because there are a lot of talented people out there whom you are underestimating. Push them too far, and they will push back. After they left, Evelyn smiled. That was beautiful. I pulled out my laptop and logged into the control panel. With a few keystrokes, I reactivated the licensing agreement. The gray indicators turned green. The automation engine came back online, resuming operations exactly where it had stopped 12 hours earlier. My phone immediately buzzed with a text from Eric Weaver. It is back. Whatever you did, thank you. The panic up here was unreal, I replied. Just renew the license. Terms have changed, but the system is solid. Over the next few weeks, the story evolved. Some business publications criticized me for being vindictive, while others praised me for standing up to corporate short-sightedness. I ignored the noise. I was busy. Consulting requests started coming in from other companies and other professionals who wanted to protect their intellectual property. Within a month, Vance Tech Consulting LLC had hired 2 employees, both of whom had been recently downsized from technology firms that had underestimated them. One of them was Melissa Croft, who had been let go in a similar fashion. Diana watched my home office transform into an actual business space. No regrets? She asked one evening over dinner. I regret that it had to happen that way, I said. But do I regret standing up for myself? Not even a little bit. 3 months later, when the initial agreement came up for renewal, Lawrence Barrett called to negotiate terms. We would like to continue, he said. Same terms if you are willing. I am willing, I confirmed, but I want one addition. I want an annual scholarship program. Zenith Solutions must fund 2 scholarships per year for young people studying automation technology, with preference given to candidates from underrepresented backgrounds. Lawrence agreed. 1 year after being terminated, I stood in my new office downtown. Vance Tech Consulting LLC now employed 8 people. The licensing fees and consulting contracts had grown beyond my projections. I looked at the framed photo of Diana and me on my desk, remembering the day I sat in my car watching the countdown timer. Tomorrow would bring new clients and new challenges, but we were ready. I had proven that you can automate the work, but you can never automate the worker. You can replace the employee, but you can never replace the human expertise that makes the system work.